is uh, this is always great for me as a coach and somebody who's been in the golf industry for so long to be able to again share my experiences and what we're doing here at Flowcode. And I think this is our third session. I mean, I know we did a big one for kind of the teaching kind of summit, and we shared some other things along the way. And today I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about my own coaching journey, just a little bit. The importance of adding more skills to yourself as a coach, and then how does that become in the business of coaching a little bit more. So backtrack a little bit. I played college golf here in the United States, and afterwards, like a lot think you can play professionally, so I tried for about a year or so. Didn't work so well, and then I became a coach. Now, I don't know about you, if you remember the first time you gave a golf lesson. I did plenty of junior kind of clinics in the summer, but that first 1 hour session that you've ever done, for me, it was exciting. It was nerve wracking. It was, what am I going to say? And unfortunately, that lesson among the next 6 months or a year's worth of lessons were, now I look back, where I did a very, very poor job. And the reason is that I was about information and just giving as much information as possible. I didn't really have a model to work off of. This is now over 28 years ago, 29 years ago. This is before TrackMans and all kinds of cool data stuff. And I had to base it on of my own game, of books, of videos. This is before YouTube, of how was I going to coach this game that I knew how to play, but how do I do that with beginners, intermediates, and so on and so forth. So I did a lot of trial and error. Unfortunately, is you make some mistakes, but you learn as a coach. And then something really shifted me as a swing coach is I started to visit other top coaches who were maybe 20 years into the business. And also I went and I took a 3-day, we can call it a camp, but it was it was 3 days golf school from a gentleman by the name of Mac O'Grady. Mac O'Grady is kind of an interesting gentleman. I won't get into too much of that, but a lot of people consider him a genius of it. And of the game. He played on the PGA Tour. He won on the PGA Tour, but then he became very well known as an instructor who was very, very technical. Now, I say technical, and why it helped me, because there was a model with it. A lot of what we now see on social media about position 1, position 2, position 3, that's from Mac O'Grady. So we now have a model as a coach to work off of. And he didn't say there was one best swing, by the way, which I really appreciated. He just was able to see at each of stages of the golf swing, cause and effect, right? As instructors, we want to know cause and effect. Why did the ball go where it went? Okay. Now, of course, we have all the cool stuff with radar systems and stuff to help us understand what the ball and club was doing. But as an instructor, can you tell somebody what was moving the club and why the combinations and all that stuff? So that really helped me as a swing coach. And I used to teach 5.5 days a week, over 41 hour lessons per week. And certainly I got repetitions in. Then I became obsessed with the mental game and went back to school and got a doctorate in applied sports psychology. But I ran into the same problem as a mental game coach. I had a lot of information, but I wasn't sure how to create a framework behind it. I wasn't sure how to communicate it. I was just trying everything. Oh, just visualize and just breathe. And unfortunately, again, I learned a lot, but there wasn't a framework behind it. So fast forward, I was mentored by some sports psychologists in the United States. Certainly did a lot of reading and started to create my own frameworks. So I want to do a quick review of the frameworks. And then I want to talk about the business application as a coach as you move forward. So those that were on some of the other webinars that we had, I shared that with Flowcode, which has now been around, well, I've been with it for over 3 years, and our golf has been open for almost 2 years, is we wanted to make it easy for a golfer, but also a coach to understand the principles of the mental game. Now, flow is peak performance. It's when we feel our best and we are in an actual state, which we're going to talk about here. What state are you in when you play the game? Well, what we see with golfers is if they're honest with us, a lot of play in a fear state mentality. Unfortunately, they're distracted. They look at the shot as a threat, and they don't want to mess up, and they don't want to embarrass themselves, and they don't want to shoot low. They don't want to shoot bad scores, and all of this anxiety and chatter and stuff gets in the way of their golf swing. So if we have these thoughts that are creating anxiety, and the anxiety now is creating tension in my body or quickness, I got to get this over with because I'm feeling uncomfortable, which is a stress response. Flowcode, we say, okay, that's one framework. Obviously, we don't want our golfers in a fear state, but we do have to talk about it though, because a lot of our players are going to be experiencing that. Just like they may be experiencing a slice that is slicing, 50 meters to the right, okay? They want to know the cause and effect. Yet a lot of those cause and effect, even on the golf swing, was mental, emotional, right? Which now created a state that was changed. So here at Flowcode, we've created models so the player can have a better understanding, their self-awareness of what they're going through. The coach has now a platform to start to work with. And again, we've done the other webinars to talk about the flow personality. Is we go beyond golf to help people live life in a more of a flow state where they're more focused, they're more engaged, they're taking on challenges, they're a little calmer, a little bit more reactionary, less reactionary in the world. So as you look at this, there's, and I'll blow it up a little bit more here, but a fear state, a lot of golfers are going through that, unfortunately. Also, their fear state is going to affect their ability to learn. If they're in a stress state in a lesson, they're probably not going to be able to listen very well. They're probably going to be in their head a lot. And unfortunately, they're going to have grip tension. They're going to have other issues that were triggered by a state of anxiety, distraction, doubt. Okay. We also believe that fear gets, unfortunately, enforced after poor shots when people become very judgmental and reactionary and such. So we as coaches can help people learn from shots without being critical, and we can help people refocus on those. So we know that there is a different way to do this, which is flow. Our ability to stay fully present in the moment, which is part of the pre-shot routine, understanding the environment that's there, looking at every shot as an opportunity, a positive opportunity, a challenge instead of a threat. We want people to understand if they have the skills to match the challenge, which is confidence, help them build confidence through other modes of practice and preparation and pre-shot routines and past shots. Having clear goals, very, very important for a flow state. And then after the shot, can we learn, be in a growth mindset? Can we look forward to the next shot? So I know there's a lot of stuff in this, but just like there's a lot of moving parts of the golf swing, there's a lot of moving parts in somebody's state, their performance state. And as coaches, we want to help them focus better, be confident, be more emotionally regulated so they can be at their best on the golf course. We also know that that performance is state dependent, which means that their decision making is going to be based on their emotional state. I used to get very frustrated on the golf course and then make risky, quick decisions. Okay, well, now that led to another bogey. That wasn't a swing issue. That was a mental issue. So we have we have the responsibility as coaches to help them with their mechanics, help them with their swing and the fundamentals, but help them think clearer, help them focus on what's relevant, help them believe in themselves, help them deal with the ups and downs of the game. I think that's actually one of our biggest responsibilities as coaches. So we have these frameworks that we work with. We also, believe that flow it's not just a on-off switch. We know that there is what we call baseline, and look at it as kind of like a dimmer switch on a light. It's not just an on-off thing. So please don't think that it's just I'm in a fear state or I'm in a flow state. There's a lot of in between, everybody. Is that we want to help our students understand if they're in the high fear zone, and can we just bring them down a little bit? Or, are they at baseline and we can start bringing them up a little bit more to a full flow state? and going from there. And then the last model that I don't believe I've shared much with, but we go very in depth with what we call anatomy of a shot. So very similar patterns that I just shared with you, but now we have much more an explanation for our golfers of what they do before a shot. So they get to the shot, what they do when they arrive at the shot, what they're aware of in their environment, because we have to be aware of external things like the lie and the wind and the yardage and how firm the green is. And then we want to be able to understand our internal world also. Am I feeling a little nervous right now, or am I feeling confident, right? That's going to affect our performance. We make decisions, and then how do we make a decision and then turn it into performance? Some of that could be done through visualization. Some of that could be done with practice swings. Some of that could be done remembering past great shots, right? There's a lot of ways to trigger a flow state. So we help these golfers become aware of their environment, analyze the environment, make a decision, and perform. That's a lot of the cognitive side, but we also want them to feel confident. We want them to understand the energy that's going through their body. Mindsets are crucial. Our ability to, what's our viewpoint of the tournament, of the round, of the shot? Your mindset will also trigger different states of mind. And then we have the result, and we talk a lot about post-shot routine and being able to observe a shot, learn from it, and move on. So I know I'm talking really, really fast because some of this has been reviewed from some of our past webinars, but it's understanding that as a mental game coach now, if I have a framework to go with, and I have now a fear to flow model, I have an anatomy of a shot, I have things that you as your own experience could add to your own model, it's much easier to look at each player now in a way to help them, instead of just going, well, I'll try this, or I'll try that. You know, I'll talk a little bit in a moment about assessing students, but I really believe it's important for us coaches to have models to work off of. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about, we now have models. We're starting to become a mental game coach. We understand the importance of it. How does that actually tap into our business, right? And so, you know, my background as a swing coach first, then a mental game coach, and now I just kind of call myself a performance coach, right? And I believe all of us are performance coaches. We're looking at all of the puzzle pieces that's going to help somebody play their best, but also enjoy the game. And that's a key part, right? I mean, people want to get better, but they're going to get better. They're going to enjoy the game more. They enjoy the game more. They're going to play it more, right? And as coaches, we have a very large responsibility in that development of the player. And so when you look at your own coaching philosophy, which I think everybody should have their own coaching philosophy, I believe there has to be now a framework behind that now. What are the principles of being a great coach? Well, number one is you have to be able to communicate information in a way that your student understands and can apply. Now, again, first year of me coaching, I communicated a lot of information, but it was too much information. My players did not get better because they were confused. They had too many things to work on. I failed as a coach on step one. I just didn't know how to communicate all the information. Okay. So communication, there's frameworks along that, right? Like if I had a basic of what am I telling my student right now, why it's important for them to listen, how they're actually going to apply it. And then the other one we have what we call is what if people, or some of those that are going to always debate you. They were on social media, hey, how about this? And this coach says this, and they're always going to want to debate you. You have to be ready for that also. So communication is your own framework of taking information in a simple manner to communicate it to where they receive the message and they respond accordingly. So my background, my undergraduate was in communication, and there's just a very key thing is, what is the response that you're eliciting from your student? What's the response you're eliciting from your students? Now, why that's such an important question is because that means did your communication work or not? If you ask somebody to grip the club and make sure that you can see two knuckles on the left side, and you think you're being very simple with it, and the next 5 repetitions, you only see one knuckle, it didn't work, right? You did not elicit the response that you wanted. So thus the communication, there was a breakdown. Okay, either they didn't understand it, either you have to tell them a different way, either you have to actually put your hands on them. I mean, so communication always starts with that. Is the message being received how you want it to be received? Do they now react in the way you want? Then we go, great. Now, part of communication, though, is developing rapport with your students. Okay, and this is where your personality is going to be very, very important. Remember, most students are coming to you in either a nervous state. Most people feel very vulnerable when they're taking a golf lesson. They don't want to make a mistake. They don't want to be embarrassed. They want to impress you, right? All this kind of stuff. And I know that what's worked for me in rapport is to get the student to be at ease as quickly as possible, get them calm as quickly as possible. So I try to joke and use humor and be self-deprecating of, yeah, you should have seen me back in college throwing clubs around and getting mad because this game is wild, right? I want them to not look at me as an expert in the game yet. I want them to look at me as another golfer. Yeah, I know, I've been through it, and this is what I've learned, though, of how I got through it, right? We need the rapport. Is people like people that are like them. People like people that are like them. So you need to be in their world. You need to talk in their terms. You need to be at their level. You need to, and that's very important, because a lot of golf instructors just want to say, I'm the expert here, just listen to what do I say. And it becomes not only intimidating, but it's not an enjoyable lesson. Okay. So communication's crucial. Communication is even more powerful when you develop rapport with your students. Now, another part of rapport is you as a coach is state management. What state are you in during a lesson? Okay. So the first year or two when I was teaching golf, and I remember to this day, I had somebody who had the shanks, right? So when you're watching shanks for the first 15 minutes of a lesson, there's panic in my own self. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And I know they're already like going crazy, right? If I show, and I did, unfortunately, this is me, unfortunately, I was getting stressed and they could tell I was getting stressed, and they go, you can't figure this out, can you? And I'm going, I don't know. So you need to be in control of your state. You need to be in control of your focus. You need to be going, oh, I understand that's frustrating. Come on. All right, we're going to work on this, right? And you now can take their state and move them. Okay. And that becomes very, very important. But if you're panicking, if you are showing frustration, if you are, distracted, that's going to come across to your student very, very, very quickly. Okay. What state, as you as an expert, want to come into that lesson with? So I want to be focused. I want to be calm. I want to be confident, but I also want to be, I want to have fun. I want to, be able to understand this is a game of golf, that we want to have fun. Let's have fun in our lesson. So I'm already bringing that intention to a lesson. Okay. The next thing, which is part communication too, is number 4 here. As coaches, I used to tell a lot of information, hope something stuck, and then they got better. As an instructor now, as a coach now, I've done a much better job of asking more questions instead of just telling them what to do. I do that for 2 reasons. One, I need to get to know the player a little bit more, but I now use questions for them to self-coach themselves. Okay. So if the ball went to the right, I ask them, do you know why the ball went to the right? Now they might say, oh, the club face was open. Oh, okay, great. Do you know why the club face was open, or what opens or closes the club face? Now that's an important question. Instead of me just saying, oh, your hands open the face and your left arm went like this, if they can come back and go, I'm not even sure what opens and closes the club face. Now we have a great teaching moment, right? We have a learning moment. Other times they may give us a different, like, oh, I heard that I have to get my knuckles to the sky and all this kind of, it's like, whoa, that was misinterpreted. So they have bad information that they were using, right? So asking questions, we understand where they're at. And I believe it can help them self-coach themselves in the future. They start asking like, huh, I wonder why the ball went there. Oh, and now I've seen 3 shots that I've topped. Huh, coach said that. Okay, yeah, I can. And same thing with the mental game. You know, what state were you in as you hit that shot? How clear was the picture of the visualization, right? We can ask questions so that they become more involved in that process. The last part of these principles here as coaches is you are the expert. Okay. I had a conversation with a coach a couple months ago who was a solid coach. They did fantastic with beginners. They had some good experience with some intermediates, but they were starting to get into working with some better junior golfers who were shooting around par. They even had one college player come to them, and they felt a little bit outside their comfort zone. Like, I don't know, that college player is actually a better player than I am. It's like, no, I said, no, it's not about who's a better player. That player's coming to you for your expertise as a coach, not necessarily as a player. Okay. I coach Colin Morikawa. He's a heck of a lot better player than I am, but he comes to me as a coach to help him look for ways to make those little improvements, help him become self-aware of the cause and effect, and help him being in his best state. I'm the expert. Okay. Now, I wasn't ready to coach a Colin Morikawa 25 years ago. I would have felt, oh my gosh, I don't know that, right? But now I believe I am. And that's you as a coach, is that you are the expert, and that's going to help you with your own state when you come to this. Like, oh, I know it's frustrating. I've been doing this a long time. This is what we're going to do, right? You take ownership of, this is what we're going to do. This is how the lesson's going to be. And now that student goes, okay, good. I'm in the right hands now. I'm in somebody who's going to help me out. They want to be helped. Okay. They're confused. They're frustrated, all those type of things. So these principles of kind of coaching is super important as you move forward. Now, when we look at the mental game business, I would ask you, how did you start your full swing coaching business? How do you know? And maybe it was through junior group classes. Maybe you just got to do some free clinics. Maybe you got in front of people. Maybe you started just with private lessons. But how did you build a business? That's different than how you built your craft as a coach. Improving your coaching is certainly through education, is certainly getting mentored. It's certainly doing certification courses like we have at Flowcode. You need to gather information. That doesn't always mean you're going to have a profitable business, though. Okay. And so I started my mental game coaching about 20 years ago. It became half of my business 15 years ago. And right now it's about 80% of my business is mental game, 20% is swing. Now that progression was, took a little bit of time, because 20 years ago, mental game coaching was like, I'm not really, I need to take other lessons, right? It was hard to make into a business, because people, one, it's hard. They don't even take golf lessons, much less mental game business, right? So I had to look at what was the demographic that I believe I can make the biggest impact on. And that happened to be junior golfers. Here in the Los Angeles area, we have a lot of competitive junior golfers. They take it very, very seriously. And I'm in an area where the parents do have resources. They have money, they have courses that they're playing. And it made it much easier for me to go to a junior golfer at 15 years old and say, I can help you prepare for tournaments. I can help you not be nervous when you play. I can help you deal with pressure more. And that they got that. They go, yeah, you're right. I get a little nervous, right? Me going to the 18 handicap index player and say, I'm going to make you less nervous, I don't think they connect with that, because they're just worried about their drive going OB all the time. And they think that's just a mechanical thing. So I had to be very clear on who my demographic was. And then from a business standpoint, I went right to them in ways. So back then, this is before Zoom and all these type of things, I did a lot of free in-person golf schools, clinics, seminars. Sometimes the seminar was 20 minutes long. Sometimes it was 90 minutes long. And it might be, honestly, I did one where I only had 4 people 4 junior golfers from my high school team. I've done some that were multiple people. I also partnered with certain junior golf tours and junior golf associations in my area, offering my services for free, okay? And then having that build from there. So, excuse me, sorry. So part of that was, this is again, well before social media, this is well before YouTube, this is, is that I had to be in person with people. I had to now travel an hour, 2 hours away to give a seminar for 10 people. And then golf coaches. And then I was, I had to be outside the box now. Now I can do it virtually, which is awesome, right? And at Flowcode, we've given so many free webinars. We've given to different associations. We've done, and we've built partnerships with, it could be a physical therapist in the area who's a physical trainer, and you're trying to create a team concept. It could be a putting coach that you can do now, mental game for putting. So please think that it can be very, very specific, or it can be very, very broad, but trying to create relationships with other people is super important to build your business. Now you have social media. Social media, again, overall, I think it's a positive for building businesses. We have to be careful how we use it. I know here in the States, we have a lot of coaches that the only social media post they put on is if their players win a tournament or get a medal or something like that. We want to be proud of our students, please, don't get me wrong. But I don't know what they did to help that player. I would want to know, right? But if they said, oh, my player just won their first tournament, we worked on pre-shot routine where I helped them stay focused using visualization. Now I go, oh, that's a cool social media post because I know their involvement as a coach led to that. We have to be careful of just putting out because they played great that, oh, we get attention because we're the coach. Tell us why they improved. Tell us what you did to improve them, or they had such a great attitude and they had resilience, right? Give them credit for that, I think is important. So social media, we can do that, but let's create some good content. Let's get people excited about what you're coaching. Now in the mental game, I love giving social media posts when I'm at PGA Tour events and talking about how everybody is preparing for their tournament this week. And I might show a few clips of Colin hitting out of the rough at a US Open, right? Let's get creative. Let's give good content. Let's have people understand your personality is going to really, really help people want to reach out to you, right? So I built it through junior golf, high school teams, then it started to branch out. And here's a key thing. When you become an expert in a small area, a niche part, you have less competition. So a swing coach, and I believe I'm a very good swing coach, but if I was just marketing myself as a swing coach in my area, there are hundreds and hundreds in Los Angeles area who are swing coaches. So now I'm competing against them. Now I ask, how many mental game coaches are there in Los Angeles? Maybe 3, maybe 5. Okay. Now I know there's a smaller group of people who are going to get mental game coaching, but I can now compete against 5 people quite easily if I stay focused on what I can do, which is provide great content online. I can do free webinars. I can do these things. I can get to that demographic quite quickly if I understand my niche, okay? And I think that's very, very important. Building your business is be very good at golf instruction and mechanics, but be an expert in one area. It could be mental game, of course. I would love for you to be a mental game certified coach. But it might be putting, it might be short game, it might be you're the best person at speed training. Great. Once you have that, you can now charge more money because experts are looked upon differently. In doctors here in the States, if you're a general practitioner, you're a doctor, something to be very, very proud of, you will not make as much money as a brain surgeon. I'll just let you know that, right? So when we can be experts at something, it's much easier to charge more money. You have less competition. So launching that business is important, but maintaining it is super important. So part of when we look at how to do a mental game session it's similar to what a golf swing session should look like, but I think it's a little different because we have to educate them more on what is the mental game. So I start with a mental assessment that is sent out via email. It's about 5 pages long. And I do this for a couple of reasons. One, I want to see how serious they are as a student. Okay. 2, it already gives me a lot of input of what they're thinking about, what their goals are, how they focus, and it goes on all the mental game skills that I coach. Sometimes they leave the answers blank because they don't know. Fine. But I do it to see, are they actually going to do the work? If I get it like, oh, I didn't have time, and oh, that's to me is a red flag. Okay. I want people to be all in. So that starts this kickstart with the client interview. They've done some assessment already. I start to help them understand what the mental game is. So I start with 3 questions all the time, and I've said these before, is I ask the client, is the mental game of golf important? They all say yes. I ask them question number 2, do you currently train the mental game? Almost everybody says no. And I said, oh, well, that's very common. The 3rd question is what we're going to be covering today. In order to train it, we need to define what it is in the first place. So now I use that 3rd question of what is the mental game? Before I tell them my definition, I ask them, what is the mental game of golf? And they look blank. They go, and they'll just either make something up or they'll say positive thinking. I go, great, that might be part of it. And I never say their answer is wrong, because it's not, it's their answer. But I now need to educate them on what is the mental game. And I start talking about goal setting and motivation and practice and tournament preparation and the big 3, focus, confidence, emotional regulation. And then I get into, those are all components. But what we're going to be talking about is state management. What state are you in when you're executing a golf shot? What's your mental, emotional, physical state? And they go, oh, okay. And then I ask them, I go, when you're playing your best, what were you thinking? What were you feeling? What were you doing? And sometimes you get back, gosh, Rick, I was focused. I was calm. I was really relaxed that day. It's like, I go, great. Do you think we need to do more of that? I go, oh yeah. I go, well, what happens when you're playing poorly? What are you thinking, feeling, and doing? Oh, I'm thinking about don't embarrass myself and don't mess up. And I get really tight. It's like, okay. So now you help them understand there's a comparing and contrasting of the state they were in, gives us the opportunity as coaches to go, oh, okay. Just like you slice a ball, you don't want that, but you want to hit it dead straight like you just did. We want more of that. Same thing with state management. So that's where I'm introducing them to the understanding, an idea of what the mental game is. And then I get into more specifics of. Sorry, I had some feedback there. Is I introduce mental game, but then I introduce more of what flow is about. And I showed you some of those models already. Flow is a research scientific state. Okay, there's neurochemicals, brain waves, everything that goes. We know it's a state. Okay, we at Flowcode know you can trigger that state through different breathing, different visualizations, different routines, different deep embodiment, all kinds of stuff that we've gone over on some of our other webinars and that are very much in detail in our certification. Is we're educate them on, this is where we're going, and we can get you to a flow state. Here are ways we can apply things. Let's apply a pre-shot routine today. Let's apply this breathing rate. Let's apply this visualization. Did it change your state? Oh, yes, no, let's try something else. And then we very much want there to be homework, or what we call kind of flow play after the fact. We give worksheets. We give resources of videos and audios for somebody now to put the work in. This is not just, hey, have a great session and Rick was real positive and all that stuff. No, this has to be applied skills now. Okay. So we have that flow play, that homework, and then we want to be able to take it out on the golf course. We want to take it from sitting here and talking to the range, to the course, to having them understand what are the interferences that are going to occur with when they play in a tournament, when they play with better players, when they play. We want to know the environments that could interfere with their flow and giving them strategies ahead of time. And then we get back to another flow assessment. Okay, we've applied some stuff. Are we getting closer? Are we able to now after that round of golf, look at how close I was in a flow state, or was I distracted, or I started thinking about score too much, or the pace of play, right? Those are very, very important parts of a round that are not talked about too much. People will say, oh, I hit my driver really bad and I hit it to the right a lot. Okay, that's a starting point. But why did they hit it to the right when on the range in their lesson they hit everything straight? Maybe their state. So we're always assessing where their state's at, and then we talk about making the changes. So now it gets back into, this is a long-term relationship. This is not a short-term fix. So I do not take on any clients for a 1-hour session. No, I take them on as development and as a program and as looking at 3 months, 6 months, 12 months down the road. It doesn't mean they're taking coaching every week. I want to make that clear. But we have a plan for improvement. I'm not into just one thing fixes everything, because it's not about fixing. It's about applying and learning these skills. So very, very important as you look at that flow. So when we look at the interview, I do the assessment. I want to know what their goals are. I want to know what their beliefs are as they go out there. And then again, I share that we do this kind of this basic mental game assessment. It's very important to know where they're at and where they want to go. We call that the performance gap. And if they can be very honest and self-aware through the interview process and through the assessment, they will already give us 1, 2, maybe 3 things that are priorities that will help them go from here to here. Okay. So it's very important for us to do those questions early on. I know I had a client who saw me for the first time, and they go, Rick, now that I filled out the assessment, I'm very clear on why I need you. And so we didn't have to waste too much time in the session, me asking a lot of questions. They had already been asked questions through the assessment process, and they already go, Rick, I know exactly where I need you for. Great. So we can go right to the point. Sometimes it does take a little longer for us to educate them on what would help them the most. So this is where, when we look at the business side of it, I certainly started with one-on-ones, okay? And then the one-on-ones became not only in person, but they became with phones, right? And now we have FaceTime, we have Zoom, we have, I can actually present slides and videos, and we can do, we can look at the course that they're going to play in, we can take, and prepare somebody for tournaments. We have technology now that helps me as a coach do one-on-ones a lot better than I used to. Nothing beats being in person. For me, a lot of my sessions are done on the golf course, so I'm putting them in the actual situations that may cause stress. I want to see how they deal with it, and we hit multiple balls from situations. So it can look many different ways on a one-on-one standpoint, but I think what we can provide is beyond just one-on-one. I think being able to do, 8 junior golfers, a couple times a month, and having them work together and having them play games and compete and using the flow principles to help them, I think is very, very valuable. Also brings down the price point per client, and it helps them become more involved with your program. Okay. So we've been able to do on course workshops. We've done it at a lot of different country clubs, and it's all level golfers, by the way. I want to make sure this is not just about elite players. This is about, we had like a 25 handicap at one of our sessions, and they loved it because it wasn't about fixing their golf swing, but it was helping them understand to be the best version of they could be out on the golf course, help them enjoy it and play some better golf. So workshops can look different, video lessons, webinars, in-person seminars. There's a lot of ways we can go about it. But if you're the expert now in your region, you can not only do it at your facility, you can now partner with other facilities, which has been very important for me building my business, honestly, is the network that I have with the PGA of America and top coaches. Is they trust me, they bring me in, and it's a win-win. Yes, it's revenue for me, but it's also revenue for them. And it's also showing their students that their teacher is bringing in experts to do that. So I really want you to think about partnering and working together and creating teams is really going to help accelerate how your business goes. So we talk about applying triggers is within our platform. And Hallam and myself, and we have a partner, Sergey. We have these other coaches that have also provided. We have a lot of information to help people go from fear to flow. And we have a ton of breath work. We have a ton of movement. We have a lot of different things that are built in to the application within the website. And so we as coaches can tap into a few of these in-person lessons, but we can also give them access to these triggers so they can start applying them on their own and being able to, again, train. This is about training and developing on that. The homework, yeah, we have tons of ways to help people create their own programs and be able to understand that, here in the States, it's summertime and it's very, very busy for my competitive golfers. Well, that's in season. That's going to look a lot different than the wintertime when they're not playing as many tournaments. We might add some different things to it. So understand that there's a cycle that happens also with performance. And we have different ways to create those programs for our golfers. And we have little like 21-day challenges, and we have full season ones. But you as the coach get to create and help your students of what works best for them. Okay. One of my favorite ways to apply anything is on the golf course. And I've shared this idea, I believe, in another webinar, especially the first one, is when I coached Colin Morikawa when he was a junior to yesterday, I gave some lessons. It's the same thing. I put people in situations. I ask them of how they're going to make a decision. Let's say they're in the right rough, 160 yards on an upslope lie with a tree in front of them. I ask them, how are they going to problem solve it? And I give them a shot. They hit the shot. I said, great. What did you learn? And what would you do differently on this one? And they get to learn. Then on the third ball, I then say, this is how I would play it, right? So on course, nothing gets better than that, okay? Because in real time, you're helping somebody with their own frustrations, their own doubts, their own fears, and putting them right into it. You're there to help them. And you can certainly give them strategies and triggers to be able to do it. But now we can go over pre-shot routine and post-shot routine and help them understand the transition between shot to shot and what they can do and how they warm up, right? That's a lot of important information that can be done now for mental game coaching. And I know a lot of you coaches already talk about pre-shot routine. Awesome. Keep doing that. We're adding another layer of, there's different ways to do a pre-shot routine, by the way. I do not teach one for everybody. Some people are more visual, some people more feel, some people are, very analytical and they need a longer time to process information. So realize that we get to understand our students the best when they are playing. Now, a lot of you may say, yeah, Rick, but our course doesn't allow us to go on the course. Okay, I have heard all that. I get it. In a perfect world, taking them early in the morning on the back nine or late in the afternoon and the evening when it's not busy, let's try to find some solutions to that, because it's very, very important for you to build a rapport and help them, those students, in their actual environment that they're going to play as much as possible. So we talk a lot about reassessing over and over again. Is we want their baseline. We want to know, after we've applied some flow triggers and routines, where are we going? Where are some tweaks that we still need to make? We're very much into journaling. We have this unbelievable journal that we provide for our students, is that they can put down their goals, the intention for the day, and then we have the feedback. What happened that day? What could I do done better? What did I do great, right? And we're tracking and that progress. And I think that's where we look at the swings nowadays, right? We have so much data that if you have a TrackMan or a Flight Scope or a full swing, and we have nowadays, I think you guys would have it, but we have something it's called SportsBox that's on your phone that you can do 3D renderings and get all the kind of biomechanics. We have force plate. I mean, we have a lot of information, don't we? That's great. And we can now keep reassessing to see, are we getting closer? Same thing with the mental game. And we shared last time that, we're working with a company called Focus Calm. It's a device that goes on our head that measures brainwave activity. So in real time, they're hitting balls with it on. We can see if they're focused or not, or if they're able to, or if they're in a stress response. So we have ways of assessing now heart rate variability. We have brainwave activity, all these cool things to be able to understand that people can make a difference in real time. So I'm very much into, most of my business 95% of my business is long-term. Okay, which means I've developed players. They're still have relationships with them. Yes, it may have started at one lesson every 2 weeks, and now it's only one lesson every 3 months. But for them to understand that there's always things to learn because they're going to keep pushing themselves to other levels. I think as coaches, we need to be there for them as a relationship for long term. Adding components like being a Flowcode coach adds your ability to have these relationships longer, okay? Because now you have more tools that you can bring to that. I work at a course where the other coach that's there, he's a speed trainer. He's a very good swing coach, but he's really gone into the speed stuff. Awesome. So now people go to him for that, and he develops protocols to help people improve clubhead speed. So when we have more tools and more skills as coaches, it's much easier to create those long-term programs. Thus, it's much harder to get a new client than to retain the one you have already. So from a business standpoint, do what's best for the people you already have, give them more value so they can stay with you. So there's less likelihood you have to find more new students. But I think it's very important to be able to provide them, again, high value and additional content, bringing in experts, right? So we've partnered with a lot of golf academies, and that they bring us in. Great, okay? You could have that too. You could bring other people in, you become the expert for other people, and I think it's just a great way to build business. So last slide here is kind of putting all these things together. As a coach, I have now learned that I cannot be an expert at all things now in golf. I just can't. There's too much information on biomechanics, too much on even speed training, physical fitness, the mental game, the putting. There is a ton of information, and getting to know some of the best coaches in the world and understanding some of their specialties, I'm going, wow, I can't learn all of that stuff. So I'm a very good swing coach, and I know I'm an expert in the mental side, and that's kind of where I'm going. I know a little bit of the other stuff, but by no means am I an expert in biomechanics. But I have 2 or 3 people that are the best in the world that I can now refer to, and they become a part of my team and my players' team. So build a team. We always want to be able to reset goals with our players because they're going to get better, aren't they? And we need to keep pushing them a little bit more and a little bit more, and have them experience new challenges, right? That's part of flow too, is take on more challenge and be resilient to that. Always learning, not only as a coach, but as a player. We want to continuously learn. We know curiosity is a superpower because it actually can help us focus. It can take us out of a fear state because I'm curious, I want to learn. We want to align our goals with our students and vice versa, and have those students understand that you're in with it for the long haul. If they want, they're let's say a 15 handicap and they want to get to a 9 handicap, a single digit for the first time, how are you going to help them get those 6 shots, right? You're aligning their goals with how you can help them. And number 5, which I want to emphasize a lot, is show that you care, show that this is more than just making a golf swing get better and so on and so forth. I believe, and I would say I would know, that most of my success has been about caring for that individual, not only in that 1-hour session, but afterwards. So years and years ago, I was already emailing people worksheets. I was emailing people practice plans. I was over and beyond just the hour session, by the way. And they go, wow, he cares. Nowadays, people are texting me and I'm texting back. Now it can get overwhelming. So I want you to know that I've now created some boundaries on that. But when you care and you show that you're there for them when they have that great success, or when they had a defeat that it's hard, that you're there for them, it goes a long way, not only for that long-term relationship, but something I did not talk about is the business side is referrals. It gets around quite quickly if you're really good at what you do. And then it spreads and spreads. You don't really have to market much, because if you're the best mental game coach in your area with junior golfers, and those junior golfers are playing well, parents ask other parents, who are you working with? What's the secret, right? And now your name comes up. So caring is a part of this too, your personality and the state you're in. So I know I shared a lot and I was talking really, really fast, but it was important for me to share with professional instructors and coaches that we know that there's many different skill sets and different puzzle pieces. At Flowcode, we've created that framework already for you of the mental side of taking somebody from fear to flow and state management. And we have the frameworks and the strategies that with that. We know each coach has their own uniqueness of how they would bring that to the student. We know that it can help our business, it can help our revenue streams as we go. So we've got a few minutes left over for some questions. I'm